Right, okay, so yeah, oh goodness, I can't believe it's Thursday. I have done nothing this week apart from worry about Ragnar, who I will be telling his story a bit later on today. He's sitting up there at the moment in a little bit of disgrace, so I'll go into that conversation a bit later on today. This is just a quick one, really. I say quick, they're never quick, are they? Sorry about that. About anklets and jesses, because I was asked about this. I've got a load of questions that I'll be getting through now I'm sort of back in the room again. So yeah, the first one is about anklets and jesses, and actually it's a subject that keeps coming up, so I thought I ought to address it. So I've got Ragnar's anklets and jesses here to show you and explain why in corvids it's passable. So this is Ragnar's anklets and jesses. Now this set here, that's his anklet and that's his jessie. These are his flight jessies. These are not his hiking jessies, so they're very different. So these flight jessies are not designed for me to control him. They are designed so that when he's flying around, free flight, and he lands back on me, I just have something to hold on to while I put his suspension leads back on again when he's finished his flight. But these are just so that I have some control over him when he lands on me again. And that's really important to do. So, now, you have to go with species on this. So species is really, really important to understand. Now, with corvids, obviously we have different corvids. We have large corvids and small corvids. So a jackdaw is the smaller corvid, raven's the larger corvid. With ravens, it's not such an issue. Big, sturdy, monstrous legs. Everything's big. Tendons are big, muscles are big. Everything's big, solid. However, ravens are not actually impact design birds, and this is what we have to consider when we're using anklets and jessies. So they were originally designed for falcons and falconry. Now falcons are impact birds. They are capable of taking impact through their legs. So they hit the ground hard, going after a prey item. The shock is absolutely absorbed correctly because they're designed and evolved for that process. So when you put anklets and jessies on them, it's no issue at all. You're not going to do any damage unless obviously you spin them round your head or something, or do something stupidly welfare non-driven, right? So that's obviously not going to happen in normal cases. So yeah, that's why it's okay with falcons. Then let's go to the other end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is the smaller birds. So I'll ignore corvids for the time being, but I've seen it a lot in pigeons. People keep pigeons and people want to take their pigeons out. So a normal is to put a harness on a pigeon like you would a parrot. Never use anklets and jessies. And I will say this categorically, never use them. Never put them on, never use them. The reason is because pigeons, for example, don't have impact protected legs at all. They're not designed, they're not evolutionarily designed to land on prey items or do anything like that. That's just not how they're designed. They're designed as perching. The same with a parrot, and to use them as hands in parrots' cases and to some degree in pigeons. You can literally rip a pigeon's legs off, particularly wood pigeons because they're quite heavy birds. So when you put anklets and jessies on, you will either break the hips, you will just damage the bird, right? So can I just say, because I have seen people who are doing this, if you ever do come across people who put anklets and jessies on pigeons, please just call them out for it, because they may not understand what they're doing is wrong, and we can try and get them to adjust what they're doing. It's really important to call them out for it, though, because it's a serious welfare issue. It really is. You do come across a lot of people with a lack of experience that do it. Unfortunately, I've also come across a lot of people who claim to have expertise and are doing it, and that's really wrong. Pardon me. So then you get to corvids. Corvids sit in the middle. They're not really impact designed birds, but they can. They are designed to land heavily. They're also designed to have fights. They're very feisty birds. They're tough, basically. They're built very tough. Evolution has given that advantage. Oh, Gilbs, you lost a feather. The smaller corvids, you need to be very aware because their legs are much more tender. Things like jackdaws and things like this. But what you need to do is you take anklets and jessies like this and you scale them down to suit the corvid. So something like a jackdaw. Actually, I'll take Morgan as a good example, who's the smallest of corvids. With tiny little legs. Now he does wear anklets and jessies and a long flight lead when he goes out for his walks with rags occasionally, He's a free flyer in the garden, but when we're away from his local environment, it's important to keep him safe. Now his are very, very lightweight and create no pull at all. So when I was talking about these being flight jessies, there's no suspension in these, right? The other leads, when they're going for hikes, and Morgans, when they're going for hikes, these are replaced with bungee cord. So they have loads of suspension. When they fly off, and if they do fly off at maximum length, it's very, very soft. It just very gently pulls their legs, nothing major at all. But still, you have to be very aware, and the bird has to be pre-trained and conditioned to understand that when these are on, we need you to behave. The last thing you want to do is have a bird that you put anklets and jessies on and just goes mad and goes all over the place and throws itself around all over the place, because you will do damage. And that can be very painful. And even damage that is not necessarily obvious, like dislocating a hip or something, but excess strain on muscles and things can create pain. And then other things onwards from that. So generally the consensus is it's fine with corvids as long as it's done in a managed, welfare-driven way, which is really, really important, which is why I went away and redesigned these flight leads, because the flight leads that you can buy generally don't have enough suspension in them, they're too heavy, and I also see people who walk around with ravens on solid leads. That must never be done. If you see anyone with a raven on a solid lead, just tell them that should have suspension on it. You will break that bird. It's a dangerous situation. So yeah, it's about checks and balances again. It's about knowing your subject, the anatomy of your subject, how to deal with the training pre-putting these anklets and jessies on, and how they cope generally. It's about knowing your bird and its capabilities, and not pushing it beyond those capabilities and causing damage, which is the case in everything you deal with them. So yeah, that's the anklets and jessies. I've got a load of questions to get through that have been building up, so I'll get through them and I'll get onto the subscribers, and I'll do all the bits and pieces that I need to do. Catching up slowly.